We are in the finals of Riley's Retro number 18. Just about to get the match started here, joined by our good friend Cyrus for commentary on this one. And we're going to be seeing Lee once again in the finals of Riley's Retro, playing the Zoro Handlock ZoroExodia deck up against Gumi with this Night March deck. And it's going to come down to, we were talking about this earlier, Cyrus. I think it's going to come down to how effectively Lee can get this lock established, that hand lock established early, and if we're able to see Night March getting the Orangaroo in play, and then of course, as you mentioned, going to have to chase down Lee's Ditto, since that is the only way to get a Alolan Muck into play, which obviously turns off that Orangaroo. So kind of an interesting nuanced matchup here, and we see right away the red card.
Yep, first thing from Lee. Now pretty decent 4 cards off the red card. You got a Trainer's Mail and a Marshadow, so not a dead hand.
Always good to see.
Guzma could be good too, but gonna be quite a few resources needed to Night March with Pumpkaboo this game. So,
and we could actually just see a Delinquent right away here. I think you obviously still have that Let Loose Marshadow, so that's got to be the most valuable card out of these 3 here. Just able to,
sure.
Obviously see some more cards. And you stream for 8 hours? Wow.
The Guzma and the Lampent you are kind of happy to see hit the discard, right?
Right. And that's kind of the double-edged sword with, this, and there is the Delinquent, so we are going to see every card in the hand but that Let Loose Marshadow hit the discard pile. And it's kind of funny because, Night March is like, you know what? I don't mind that. Like, the Trainer's Mail is probably the most valuable card out of the other 3. Potentially could have
it's like on the other hand, yeah, it's like it would have been nice to have the Trainer's Mail, but on the other hand, that guaranteed I got the Lampent in the discard pile, which they didn't have a guaranteed way of finding that before, so.
Very, very true. So would have loved to have seen, maybe a Battle Compressor off that Trainer's Mail, but definitely guaranteeing that you're able to continue playing the game with this Let Loose Marshadow, I think is a tolerable, next best thing.
Yeah, and definitely gonna have that shuffled back in if we can find a peeking red card.
Meanwhile, that must be what Lee is digging for here with all these Shamans, and does find the computer search, so we are going to see the peeking red card most likely.
Assuming there's
get a peek. I mean, there's nothing else that you would have been really digging that hard for. You have to imagine.
Computer search, yeah.
There it is, the peeking red card. What is the one card? It's the Shaman!
Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
Whoa.
Wow, and Lee has got to be so heartbroken, and there's the
Orangaroo.
Oh my goodness. And the Battle Compressor is found, and this is exactly what we were talking about, is this Night March deck just has all of the tools, the necessary tools to draw out of these poor hands. And wow, I mean, Lee did everything right that turn, played as best he could. Obviously that just comes down to the variance of what you get off red card and peeking red card, and just so happened to work out in Gumi's favor that time. But wow.
I don't know if this was the best line of play here, but it does do the trick. Found a Float Stone, which is really nice.
Yeah, and I think
here.
The one concern, though, is that Ditto did hit the field for Lee, so we could actually see a situation where Lee is able to establish that Alolan Muck on the following turn, take a KO as Sky Return, and then reestablish some semblance of a hand lock with the red card Delinquent play a second time. So there are still, plenty of ways that this Exodia deck can, move past losing the hand lock on the first turn there. But it's going to take a few cards, of course, but definitely a line for Lee to find here.
Yeah, absolutely. The only question is if the Muck comes down, we're still going to need, he's only going to have access to most one trade here, right? And even if the Muck comes down, we're still going to need to see another like red card or something along Delinquent, something along those lines, because hand's pretty good here right now from Gumi, even after this Jolteik gets knocked out. And there's only going to be one. Currently, there's only one Zoro in play. Lee just doesn't have that many cards to work with here to do that much damage.
Right, and you obviously can't play a draw supporter to fill out your hand because you need to play the delinquent after the red card. So that's why you see the 4th shaman coming down this turn. And
yeah, it's just good. Yeah, I mean, even if Lee shuts down Gumi this turn, Gumi has such a strong hand and board presence that doesn't necessarily need to draw cards this turn.
Well, there's a let loose, so that will serve as a red card. Does almost the same thing, and also gets 4 cards for Lee to work with. So,
unfortunately, though, no Zoroark or Muck found yet. Obviously, the Muck couldn't have come down yet because he needs to play all these basic Pokemon abilities. But no Zoroark is pretty scary for Lee here.
And it's a little bit. I mean, looking at this hand from Gumi, though, the Night March player, we're not looking at too much here. We do at least have the double colorless to attack again. There's a Pumpkaboo on the board plus these Joltik. So I mean, you can thin out the hand potentially for the Oranguru, but there's the Muck.
There is the Muck. So we can at least see an attack from Gumi next turn, presumably for a knockout. Whoa, Lee just chorused for 10 and did not find a Zoroark.
Yeah, that's a little bit scary. I wonder if there are some pretty unfortunate prizes for Lee, perhaps. But
yeah, very potentially. I mean, it's worth noting here, if he doesn't have anything yet, obviously he's probably just going to find a chorus again next turn, but he can't use abilities anymore either. So, I mean, I think all of his ability Pokemon are played, too. I like the Silent Lab play here, though. Just lock up the bench spot.
Just no, stop.
So yeah, I mean, all he has going for him is this one Zorua. He doesn't have a Zoroark GX in hand. Unless he drew one off the prize cards.
There we go.
I mean, I suppose you can just spam Sky Return at these Joltics and hope that's enough, but if Gumi can find a Juniper to start chaining teammates and stuff like that, then
well, there's finally a Zoroark. Yeah, you thought Mew drew cards. I guess the difference, though, here is that with Mew, you can do that every single turn. You don't have to keep playing the cards, whereas the Shamans are only, of course, when you put them into play, you get the effect. So, not quite the same impact as Genesect, but still obviously great cards. And in this instance, you can attack very efficiently. This is, like, probably your optimal attacker at this point, right? You miss this format, Charismatic Canine? Yeah.
Okay, so if Gumi can double deck a draw supporter. Nope.
Wow.
Okay. Oh, they're just gonna scoop it up.
And scoop it up, go right to game 2, and that's just kind of how this matchup can go sometimes. Alright, so in game 2, what do we think we want to see differently from our Night March player? Or is there anything you can do differently other than just, you know, hope you draw slightly better off the second hand disrupted?
Yeah, I think that's... I don't think they really did anything incorrectly. They just didn't find their draw supporters. I mean, their hand was just nothing. It was just Pokemon. And ways to find Pokemon in their hand after the lock came down. So not a lot they could do. I mean, Lee even had a pretty slow start themselves. So
yeah, I think honestly it might be a little bit. I mean, of course, getting to go first is a huge benefit for this, but I think being able to thin out your deck more with Battle Compressor first will definitely help, because obviously it makes it that you're that much more likely to draw into good cards off of these hand disruption. They do have to both draw pass, because this is a retro format where the turn 1 supporter could actually be played at this time, and since we are playing on TCGO, it forces you to not be able to play a supporter, so we have to kind of correct that with the pass rule. Super unfortunate, hate to have to keep doing it, because obviously it kind of compromises the game a little bit, since both players obviously get an extra card off of it, but we do what we have to play retro, you know? And Ultra Ball, clear out the hand, get a full 6 off this Shaman. Definitely looking for some more Battle Compressors, keep thinning out that deck. Want to be careful to not play too low on the hand size, though.
I'd honestly even like to see Gumi, I mean, this Parallel City is always an option, but play maybe a Silent Lab down if they can find that. But maybe just this Parallel City is fine.
Well, and my main concern with that, though, is that, again, by playing... obviously, Lee plays 6 stadium cards, so it's pretty likely that Lee's going to find one anyway, but it always concerns me to... And I do like just discarding it here, I will say that, but, you know, playing a stadium down against this handlock deck, that's one less card they need to find to get the Delinquent playoff. Obviously, they don't have the benefit of Skyfield if you're, you know, able to get that set up, but... It's just something that, you know, I hate to kind of give your opponent even more cards to make their main strategy easier. And yeah.
Two of Lee's 6 stadiums are the parallels, though, so I'm not going to be able to bump it with his own parallel. I kind of would have liked to see from Gumi, instead of Trainer's Mailing, Ultra Balling away the Trainer's Mail and the Special Charge, grabbing a Rangaroo, putting that down, and then playing the Parallel City to try to restrict Lee, and then draw 3 with the Rangaroo, and if you get delinquented, you can just draw 3 with the Rangaroo again.
Yeah, and even in this instance, the Rangaroo was in hand, and they chose not to bench it, so this was prior to the Parallel coming down, obviously, so they did have the bench space to throw that down. I'm a little bit curious why we didn't see that hit the board, but
yeah,
no...
would have been able to clear one of the Shamans away, too.
Right, yeah, one of the Shamans could have been discarded off that Parallel, so a little curious why we didn't see that. And then, of course, Lee did play a Colress, so not going to get the Delinquent play, which means this hand is safe. Of course, we still had pretty good cards in hand either way, so still going to be able to play the game is Gumi, and a computer search found for Lee. What else do we have?
I think he's just looking to grab those eggs that he... to promote
maybe an Ultra Ball here. I think an Ultra Ball in hand, yeah.
Ooh, you got it.
Hope TCG Live will allow custom rules for private games. Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat as I doubt it, but it's a hope. Even something simple like that would make it so much more accessible if they can eventually add in support for older formats. Like, even if they could just give us to black and white and give us these kind of formats, I think would be... I'd be okay, but we'll see what we get out of TCG Live. I have zero hope, you know, zero faith, I should say, but we'll see, But for now, we got some TCGO where I'm sticking to it, and we're keep sticking to the TCGO, you know, tried and true, good old faithful here. So, but the awkward thing about kind of leaning in with the Pumpkaboo here, while obviously it does not get KO'd by a Sky Return, you need to find your Dimension Valley or attach again to take a KO with it. So that's why we see the energy going down to the Joltik. Most likely going to have to retreat this Pumpkaboo, which feels pretty bad.
I don't know if I love the... I don't know. I think they should just grab the Trainer's Mail most likely off this order pad. Yeah. I don't know if I like Junipering there instead of using Let Loose, because you burn a VS Seeker and... Oh, I think... Oh, right.
Yeah, the Parallel. Yeah, I was like, you can't use the Let Loose.
It's unfortunate.
Yep, exactly what you just said, Tay. Yep, 100%. If TBCI made a Magic the Gathering, like, Masters style set for Pokemon, reprinted older cards, and cared about Expanded, they make so much money. Even if, regardless of Expanded, like, if they just made a master set kind of thing, or just, like, you know, Celebrations Part 2, and they did kind of, like, put Beach in there, and they put other cards to make Expanded accessible, but also more retro staples that would be so good for kind of bringing more attention to the game. Stuff like that would be such big sellers, for sure.
It's one of those things that were, like, I'd like to think that they'd sell really well, and they certainly would amongst players. But unfortunately, from a business standpoint, I don't know if it is like a safe investment, because ultimately, like, probably 90% of people who buy Pokemon cards don't play the game, and those people aren't going to have any interest in that. Some will, but for sure.
For collectors, though, Celebrations, like, if you put the collector cards in Celebrations, like a Part 2 Celebrations.
Yeah, if you do more Celebrations like sets where you do like some collectible stuff, some playable stuff. I think that's a good
you cater to both sides. You're like, here's the player cards, here are the collectible card, you know, the collector's cards. Once again, we are blessed by the perma green arrow, left arrow on the screen. I wonder if that's a good luck. Maybe it's a good luck sign.
I think they won. They won the last game.
They did, yeah.
So
we'll see how it pans out for them in this one. Also,
I think there's also an argument about Pokemon product that nothing they're making currently is super. None of their like side sets right now are like super. They're just all just new cards, generic. They're not really trying to do anything to cater to either market. So, I mean, they could try to do. I mean, if they're not going to cater to collectors really anyways, they might as well cater to players.
Right. And did we see the concession here? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe they had.
Is there something?
I mean, it's not over. They can Guzma the Muck, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows how long that Muck will stay up there. I mean, I imagine we'll just see a Guzma here, but...
Oh, and this brings up my favorite discussion on Guzma as a card and why it is so oppressive and removes that kind of thing from the game, but I will save that for another day. And once again, Lee is your Riley's Retro champion, taking it down with ZoroExodia. Congrats again to Lee.